We need a catchphrase.
We do.
We say this every single time, and I don't think we're making any progress. I feel like we're, like treading water when it comes to the catchphrase.
I was literally editing the last episode this morning, and it was painful.
Just how
And
bad.
we mentioned how bad our previous intros were, and somehow we topped all of those in the last episode.
Well, I think this one tops it. This is by far the worst intro. Like I haven't.
No, so far we're making
Okay.
full sentences here. In several of these, it's just been long pauses of nothing.
It's been like 30 seconds, and we haven't introduced who we are, our names, or what we're doing. We just came out and started talking.
I don't think people care about that stuff. They're here, they're listening to a podcast, they're doing something else. You're never just sitting and listening to a podcast. You're washing a dish or going to the bathroom or something, right?
Yeah.
So just listen to the sound of our voices talking about nothing. Oh, but we do have an agenda.
For example, who are we?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, so I came in and I wanted to do like a proper intro, and here we are several seconds later with nothing.
Not doing a proper intro?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are we?
Why not just say it?
'Cause
you
it's a
drag this out. You drag this out every single week.
Well, because I expect you
used to go in and say, "We are Dumb Comic Creators. I'm Eric Schwartz, and I'm joined by."
Fine.
And I would say my name, and then we would get right into the topics that we're going to cover that week, and we would go right and introduce our guest, Rob Cannon, and it would be amazing.
So, Rob Cannon, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We just had a great introduction.
So we're just going to skip it all.
Well, you just said it all. I don't need to repeat it.
I feel defeated.
I
have to say, your prowess in creating comics is topped only by your professionalism in broadcasting. You guys are really on top of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Rob, thanks for coming on the show. You have a Kickstarter coming up.
Well, the Kickstarter...
Is it running?
Oh, no, the Kickstarter is long gone.
Oh, okay.
The book is being published, and it's coming out in December.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it is called Freak Snow Washed in the Blood, and it is the premier title to the Fubrek Studios franchise called Freak Snow. And what is it, 72 pages or something like that. And it's this crazy story about a kid who's raised in a cult, like a gun-worshipping cult, and all the crazy stuff that happens after his family commits a mass suicide, and like kind of his journey of finding himself and what his life is all about. It is fucking crazy, and Kevin Rodatelli is the guy who came up with the story. I did most of the artwork, joined by, I'm not even going to try the name. There's one guy whose name I can't pronounce, but
Kostas Pentolas.
That's a pretty good, that's a pretty good guess.
And then Vivi Eckert.
Yeah.
Okay, so we read this comic this week, and it's awesome. But I did want to figure out which artist did which section. So, so which parts did you draw? Did you draw like the ending or the beginning?
So Kostas did all of the God World stuff, where you've got the kind of like, I think it looks a little bit like, it reminds me of Mobius, the work he did with, I'm blanking on the name. Come on. Whatever. The guy who was going to do the Doom movie, whatever. And so he did all the God pages. Those are, I think, pretty like distinct from the stuff that I do. And Vivi did the first page at the beginning that has the police officers.
Oh, okay.
I did mostly the body of the book, which all takes place in like the, post-apocalypse snow wasteland. So.
Okay. So there's weird, there's like weird God-like people with symbols on their bodies, and that was Kostas, right? Okay.
Yep.
And then the very first page has police officers, and that's Vivi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you covered all of the child Messiah in the snow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The main storyline is the stuff that I did. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All the watercolor and all that stuff.
Yeah. Which was very Frank Miller looking.
Yeah, I kind of so when I first realized that I actually had a shot in this industry is when I saw Frank Miller and the gigantic like ape shit on the wall smearing mess that he did, and I was like, holy cow, dude. If this guy can be taken seriously, like I can do this. And that's not to like deride Frank Miller as an artist. I love it. But it's just like, it's a fucking nightmare mess. And it also like Ralph Steadman is another guy I've gotten a lot of inspiration from, who worked with Hunter S. Thompson a lot. Just the crazy, like messy, splattery, just, God, it's crazy. And you just kind of get this flow of consciousness feel from it. And it feels very immediate. Like these things are happening to you, like you're like, it's violent to look at it. And so that's kind of the stuff that I really gravitate towards, mostly because it's fun to draw that way. It's almost like playing music or something when you're sitting there just going like, you really get into it.
So you use a lot of like improvisation when you're drawing these
comics?
I do.
Yeah. I have to. I've tried to plan it out, but it just looks too like, I don't like shitting on anyone, but the example I use is like the old kind of golden age comic books where the characters all look like they're posed action figures standing still.
Yeah.
And I don't want my artwork to be like that, which is good because I have no chance of like achieving that, stillness. I have more trouble like drawing, things that are standing still than things that are moving and have a lot of emotions. So, and I always try to, challenge myself to tackle those tasks when they come up, but it's like, it's always harder than drawing like a highly emotional person doing something complicated.
Right. So how many times do you kind of like throw whatever you were doing out and like start again? Or do you just kind of keep adding to it?
Well, I love, I'm not going to talk about Kim Jong-gi again. I did that earlier this week, but he's this awesome Korean artist, and his illustrative thing is that he doesn't use guides. He improvises everything using usually like a Pentel Pocket Brush, which is an ink pen, like a brush pen. And when not using guides, he's kind of just got to improvise everything. And whenever he makes a mistake, he finds a way to either cover it up or use it to
incorporate it
to service the piece. And so that's kind of what I try to do. I don't generally throw things out unless I just look at it and go, no, that's not going to work. Which does happen sometimes. And, it's important to recognize that instead of
like
going,
you're in
I don't want to start over, because then what the hell is that?
Yeah. Like when you're in it's a bad day. Sometimes you just have a bad day and then
absolutely
you can't use it.
I try not to have bad days. Like that's part of being a professional artist, is going like, how do I work through this? I'm having an off day. I'm tired, whatever. What kind of like substances do I have to put inside my body? Or like, do I have to meditate for 20 minutes? Like, what do I have to do to get through this? And,
be energized. So you're working full-time as an artist, and I'm assuming graphic design and illustration.
Yeah, I do anything I can get my hands on, really.
Cool. So what's your work schedule like? Are you working 7 days a week, or have you kind of narrowed it down to 5? Or
I mean, I pretty much do work 7 days a week, only because I just don't feel a need to stop on the weekend. Like every once in a while I'll take a day off. Like tomorrow is my wife's birthday, so we're going to go to San Francisco, and I'm probably not going to get any work done tomorrow, but like that's planned. It's not like, oh, what am I going to do? So It's all about having the plan and sticking to it. And I try to, I keep my weekly day-to-day planner, and I try to plan things out at least a week and ahead, detailed, what am I going to do today stuff. And yeah, I end up working 5 to 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours, whatever, just to get the important thing. I don't pay attention to how long I work. It's just like, what do I need to get done? And, how can I get out of schedule, whatever. So.
And a lot of our listeners may or may not be people who want to make comics for the first time, or just people who are making comics, maybe starting out, or complete veterans. So that just covers everyone. And they're wondering, do you pay taxes?
Oh my God, I wish I didn't. Jesus Christ. I learned, actually, this year was the first year that I had a really, like, almost all of my income was coming from this, which is really great. It's a big deal.
Wow.
But I learned that there was a thing called self-employment tax, which is basically your Social Security or Medicare. And that snuck up on me last week. Got a mail in the IRS for, hey, you forgot to put this on your TurboTax. Okay. I used the 4-letter words and sent them half the money I saved up to pay this year's taxes. So, that's a lot of fun. So yes, I do pay taxes, but to me, it's worth the bullshit to be able to get out of bed in the morning and go, okay, who am I working for? That's right, it's me. Which,
that's right.
That doesn't appeal to everybody, but like it's a big one for me. Not as a narcissist so much as like just to, I don't know, it just feels free. That's really nice.
For those that are wondering about their taxes, though, you are much better able to itemize your deductions if you're self-employed than if you were, say, for like me, who works for a company. So
Eric's an accountant, by the way.
I'm an accountant, by the way. So when I heard I heard self-employment tax, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a big deal. You kind of need to remember that.
You should pay quarterly.
Oh God.
Also have a Roth IRA because that's the best type of savings.
Yes, I do have a Roth IRA.
That is the correct type of IRA to
have. So Rob, can we look at a page and just talk about how you made it?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Let's do it. I'm also curious what caught your eyes. That'll be interesting to. Whoa! Ah, yes. That's my favorite line in the book.
Good morning, dickhead child.
Good morning, dickhead child. Ah, yes. There it is.
So when you're starting this page, this is towards the beginning of the process? Mm-hmm. And where do you start with this page?
Always start with the backgrounds. Okay, well, I guess we could go all the way back to the beginning with the script, and for everything, we kind of did secret. I'm going to write my disaster artist book in probably 10 years where I explain how we did this whole book out of order. That'll be fun.
Oh,
but
wow.
For now, yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. But for now, I'll just tell you, like, the process for making this page was doing paneling. Right, so that's taking the script and kind of knocking it out into what composition I want it to be, and then I send it to Kevin and go, because it's really important with every time I've ever worked with somebody to be like, I want you to have input on the artwork, and I also want to have input on the script, like to be able to bounce things off you and say, can we change this, can we change that, or at least have the ability to go, hey, that's a really good script, and for that to mean something to you. I think that's important in any partnership.
Right.
So anyways, we do the paneling, and once that's approved, I go in and do the backgrounds, which for this it's all actually one watercolor painting that's just like of Kralix's bedroom wall. And he's got like some pictures and like a curtain and shit up there.
Okay.
And then I went and did the line work, which is on a separate piece of paper entirely. So I go and get some 18 by 24 drawing paper and lay some ink down, scan it in, and all the coloring aside from the water. So the watercolor backgrounds are all watercolor, no digitals, and the subjects are all colored digitally. So that's why they're kind of. I wanted to give it that because Kevin was really kind of. He liked that my artwork kind of has a little bit of an anime look. Like people say that it reminds them of the animated scenes from Kill Bill sometimes. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of took it the extra step and like made it look even more like a cartoon in that way, with like flat subject coloring and a painted background. So
interesting. All right. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah. And so you're talking about like kind of the foreground is digital.
Yes.
And the background is watercolor.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And then there's effects put onto the foreground to like kind of make it blend in a little bit. Like I also take some watercolor textures I've scanned in and isolated as brushes or whatever, and and added that on so it's it doesn't look out of place unless I want it to, which is cool.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that's interesting. I've never heard of scanning the background and scanning the foreground separately. Does that take an extra step of time? Like
it does.
Yeah.
In a way, it does make it take longer because, well, with watercolor, it's a whole process. Like that's a whole day right there. If I'm making a page, I would usually do like several pages at once. So I could just do like 3 pages. I do one step of the process every day. So I do inks one day, watercolors the next day, digitals usually takes 2 days, whatever.
Okay.
And so by the end of the week, I've got 3 or 4 pages done.
Interesting.
And
yeah. It's easier to set up like watercolors all at once, right? Like use the same color on several pages,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
And-
So if you've got, that's a really good observation. So if you've got a scene like a few pages that take place in the same location and you want the colors to be consistent, now oftentimes I take notes, but still it is good to have that immediate, like, okay, I was using that color, and you know, it does when you make a palette, it doesn't last forever. So you know,
right.
Either have to mix it up or whatever. And what makes it easier though, like obviously with this one, I painted one background, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit.
Yeah.
But in other parts, there's like tons of different backgrounds on the same page, so it's like it becomes a lot harder. So it kind of balances out in the end.
So just so our listeners are clear, you're saying that you painted one background and then you like digitally you just copied it into each panel.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay.
Boy, you make it sound like I'm lazy.
Hey,
So,
lazy is smart, you know?
Smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
That's all good.
So, for example, the first background is different than the fourth background in that there's just simply more drapes.
Mhm.
Was the drapes just purposely cut off, like from in like the first one compared to the last one?
It's a closer angle. So he just blew it up. It's the same thing.
Yeah, so it's like it's an oversized background that's probably, I don't know, you're seeing maybe 2/3 of the actual painting in any one of the panels at any given time. So, you know, that allows me to kind of move. It's almost like you're moving a camera around. A lot of times when I'm thinking about comics, I think about it like, what would I do if I was shooting a movie? So, you know, the watercolor background is almost like you're making a set. And so you build the set that you're going to move your camera around inside, but you don't need to make anything outside of that unless the context is somehow important, which I guess I understand. But
That's awesome. That's a cool way of doing this process.
It kind of came about organically. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I've never seen it done before, but I hope that people see this and are inspired by it and try it out. You know,
how did you come to this workflow? Like, how did
man. I've always just tried to do different shit. Like, I think can I show you guys a book? Oh, wait, we're on the radio. Sorry.
For the people that go to our website, they're actually able to see us via YouTube.
Oh,
so you can show it to us. And then just for those that are just listening to the podcast, go to dumbcomiccreators.com and watch when you have a second.
It's on our Patreon. It's free to watch.
Free to watch.
All right, I need to take my headphones off for a second.
Okay.
Well, we're wrapped between the two of us, me and Keegan. So, Keegan, how you doing?
No, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut this.
Okay.
All right, this is The Fountain. So this is the first book that I read that had, and you guys are familiar with the story of The Fountain, Darren Aronofsky's movie. It's the same concept where there's like 3 different storylines going on at once. You've got the modern day, the conquistador, and there's like some weird esoteric future guy flying around a like space bubble.
Yeah.
And each one of those worlds in this graphic novel has a different art style. It's kind of hard to see, but like, and it's all done in this crazy like oil paint stuff.
Oh, right.
Like, and there's that one. I'll just show you a good example of like the contrast. And then in the modern one, it's really stark and everything's done in like 2 colors and just kind of, I mean, it's crazy. So when I saw that, I'm going like, okay, I've got to come up with something that looks as interesting as this. So right from the beginning, when I started making comics, this is in like 2009, I just started just trying everything. And some of it was crap, some of it was cool, and some of it was cool when I did it, and now it looks like crap. So I just tried everything I could get my hands on to make something interesting. And so I'm continuing to do that. And I think that's how it came about. I was just like, oh, shit, that's a neat idea. I've never done that before. And boom, here we are.
And how did you get attached to this project?
I've been working with Kevin for a long time, since about 2015. And we've just been kind of working on projects, and this Freak Snow thing has been kind of like under the hood for a while. And so that's why we're able, so there's this graphic novel that's coming out, and the ongoing, that's just titled Freak Snow, which is going to be, you know, a 30 or so page comic book series, and, you know, each issue is a comic. And 2 issues of that are done already, and those are going to be releasing in January and February. So,
great.
Like, we've been working on this for a while, and Kevin and I started when I was shopping around my first series called Sane 6. It was this little mini graphic novel that never ended up going anywhere, but like he liked it a lot. And so we started working together and kind of realized that we sort of have like a yin and yang skill set thing going where, you know, he's good at marketing stuff. He likes marketing stuff. He's like a social media guru. He's the reason I'm here doing this podcast with you guys.
Yeah,
like,
he
was out there shopping it around. So.
He threw you to the wolves. Yeah.
Yes. I'm happy to do it because he has a funny accent and like people can't understand what he's saying, but it's great. That's like part of what people like about him.
Yeah.
But and he'll tell you about it too. And so yeah, that's kind of where it all came from. We've just stuck together because you know, he does the stuff I don't like doing, and vice versa. So, you know, and yeah, we're going to be working with Behemoth Comics this year. It's awesome so far, and hopefully when our book comes out, we make some cash. So
yeah.
that's not number one, but it sure would be nice.
It's number one.
It's number one alongside like making a great product. Like,
yeah.
You
know. Cool. I want to go back to this page one last time. Sorry to be boring, but we didn't talk about the lettering yet.
Oh yeah.
How did you do the lettering?
Yeah, so the lettering is just Photoshop. So and just using a whole bunch of different fonts. So I just went in there and did all that with different text. But you know, you got to find the right lettering, the right font and all that stuff. So it's just a pain.
So what made you choose this kind of it's very it looks very sloppy sort of. It's like yeah, I don't know. It's
kind
very
like
expressive. Yeah, it's very expressive, like the artwork.
Yeah, so that's why I think it matches the artwork. You know, I tried a few of the more standard comic book fonts, and you know, it stood out. You know, it's a weird thing. Like if you put this font into a comic book that had more like, I don't know, standard style artwork, it would be like, why the hell did they do that? But with this, in a way, it sort of blends in. Like that's what I've always been told, and what I think is true about lettering is like if you notice the lettering, you're probably doing something wrong, or like not if you notice it, but you know what I mean? Like if it stands out, or if you go like, geez, what's with the lettering? It's supposed to kind of be like the thing, kind of like the soundtrack in a movie, or, you know, the sound design or something like that, where you're supposed to not really notice it. It just has its effect.
Yeah. What I thought was great about having you do basically all of this, the color, the ink, the lettering, is that it looks like you did all of it. It's very much like you're the director, the auteur of this comic book, and you kind of took it in your direction, you know, after Kevin wrote it. So
yeah, that's pretty much the idea. He had a lot more control over this one. Like he would tell me, yeah, we got to change this, we got to change that. So we did a lot of refurbishing on it. But with the ongoing series, we are doing more of a producer-director relationship. So he's just kind of coming up with the main story beats, and I'm writing the script like doing everything after that. So and I like that a little better because it reduces the amount of, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? So, you know, I submit him my script, and, you know, we just kind of go from there. And then he spends all his time telling people about it, you know, while it's in production. So
right. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And that one I'm hand lettering, which is way more time consuming, but it looks really interesting. It looks like this, but better.
Is that part of Freak Snow?
What do you mean, like the handwritten stuff?
Yeah. For that comic?
Yeah. Yes,
oh, yeah. Okay. Cool. And then what font is the angel voice? Is that?
I think that one's called Traveling. So it's all typed. There's I don't think there are a few like moments where there's handwritten dialogue. If you see something that looks especially violent, that's probably my brushwork. But
you've even like the sans serif, you've really gone in an expressive way, and it like covers different parts of the panel.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And it's
I kind of had to sell Kevin on that one because it seemed too weird to me to just have like these disembodied, you know, rectangles or whatever, how you usually do narration. So I wanted to take the super, it contrasts with the world, right? Like it looks like it doesn't belong there, and it really doesn't, because it's this weird god character that's kind of invading the world.
Yeah.
And so, and on top of that, when you're doing it without borders, you can kind of work it into the artwork in kind of a cool way. And I've seen, there was one comic book that a guy who's, unfortunately I don't remember his name, but he did a comic book called Supernaut, and it had this really cool like infographic thing going out throughout the whole thing, and that inspired me to kind of, you know, work the text into the artwork, and, you know, so that was fun.
Yeah, because you see the like angel talking to the character like a lot, you know, in comics, and this was a
constant,
a unique take, of like having that voice really intrude when it needs to.
Cool.
And like changing decibels, right? That's like the size of the font is the decibel.
Yeah, you can
that.
tell when he's getting yelled at, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So Eric?
My just question is, so you're probably at this point used to working just with one person, the writer or the employer, whoever it is for your artworks. Did you work with the other illustrators as well? Because obviously, like the God parts affected your parts, and vice versa. So I don't know how to pronounce his name. Keegan, how do I pronounce his name?
We're gonna just go with Costas.
Costas.
We're sorry, man, Costas. If you're listening to this, we're probably
Costas,
getting this all messed
apologize.
up.
But were you working with Costas at all? Because obviously those two were reflecting back and forth.
Let's call him KP. KP.
I had almost zero contact with the other artists. The only thing that I did was the lettering for their pages, and we kind of did like, how does this look? How does that look? Kind of stuff. But for the most part, Kevin was doing that. Which, I mean, the fact that it looks to you like we were working together, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I was reacting as best I could to the artwork that was coming from those other two. So, I mean, it was a pretty crazy like style of production, but I think it came out pretty cool.
Did you do the lettering for those pages?
Yeah, I did the lettering for all of them.
Interesting, because it looks so different.
Yeah, I mean, that's intentional for sure.
It's great because even that fits that style. So
he literally just said that, Keegan. He did the lettering for them.
I know. Okay, I was looking at the art. I wasn't paying attention. All right.
It wrested his attention away.
It did. It did.
Did you like this experience, like more or less similar to compared to the rest?
The rest of the books that I've done or projects that I've been working on?
All the above.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it had parts where it was pretty frustrating. And just adding that number of people to a production just adds complication. And some of it was me where I'd just be like, Kevin would tell me to redo something, like, yeah, why did I do that? But then I'd, look at the pages as a whole and go like, yeah, he's right. So there was some of that. And it was just a long process. I think it's the longest book I've ever done.
It's 75 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty long. Oh, also, I forgot about this. The one who, if you had to guess, I probably gave it away. Who do you think did Weed Jesus?
Not you. I would say Vivi, right?
Nah, that was me too.
That was you? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. My dad, when my dad saw that, he's like, "What the hell is this?" My son didn't. So like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could guess because there was like a purple wash on the back of that. It was like making it look like the page had. Obviously you watercolored over some real pages.
Yes, I did. So yeah, I mean that was another weird thing that we just kind of threw in there. It's like Kevin's like, yeah, we're gonna use that Weed Jesus thing you did. I'm like, oh Jesus, really? Okay.
So the big thing I've been avoiding in this interview, almost intentionally, to be honest, is the plot of this comic, and but like it revolves around a pop culture loving angel who's trying to help the next Messiah. Is that it boiled down?
That's pretty good. Yeah. I think you pretty much nailed it. It's like the angel has this kind of lust for power and fame. Okay. And they are trying to sort of pass that on to Kralix, the main character, and like the only way they know how, which is to be a jackass.
Okay.
So that's pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's the basically what it boils down to.
Cool. Okay. And so his Weed Jesus, for our listeners' sake, was like his first attempt at a
they
Messiah,
felt merciful for some reason too. Yeah, it was going to be all right. Here's Weed Jesus. This is going to be my thing. They're like, that's so stupid. Oh. And then
I got a second one to try, and that's where the main comic shows up.
Yes, that's pretty much when the show starts. But it's all interconnected in a strange way. I'm sure we're going to see more Weed Jesus in the future. Kevin just loves that concept so much.
Oh, it's great. It's really fun. Yeah, especially in like watching all this stupid news stuff, and you see that they all turn into hippies. It was
yes. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was nice. And then so there's 3 artists on the comic, and each artist is telling a different part of the story, and the styles are completely different. But did the one artist only do 1 page of this?
Yeah, Vivi only did 1, and she knocked it out in a night too. It was amazing. Like, Jesus, how did you do that?
Wow.
But she crushed it. She's on it.
Yeah, and that part of the story doesn't come back ever.
No, so it's the child that dies inside the pregnant woman is like reborn as the god,
Got
the
it.
god character
Okay.
that we're
Okay.
following. So yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
So it is not a non sequitur.
Okay. Cool. All right. So that's the whole plot. We got it. We nailed it.
There you go.
Yeah. Without giving any spoilers or anything out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. Rob, you've been an awesome guest.
Thanks, man.
I'd
It's
love
been
to
a lot
get
of
in.
fun.
I'd love to get into why this was so frustrating, but you're trying to promote the comic, not scare people away.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not frustrating to read, I don't think. So
No.
check it out.
No, it's a good
Watch some
read.
guys get their heads smashed by a big dude in the snow. That's
No,
always fun.
it's a very impressive book, and it's a very fun read.
Thank
as
you.
well.
We worked so hard on it, man. It's great to hear that. I'm so glad that it's getting the reception that it has been. It's so cool. And man, you guys are gonna love the ongoing too. I will be sure to reach out with you, and we'll get you a free copy of that one too.
Cool. And how do people find this? How if they're listening now and they want to support this book?
So Freak Snow has an Instagram. We're on Facebook. I am also on Instagram and Facebook. If you just search Rob Cannon Design, you'll track me down. Kevin Rodatelli can also be found on those. I don't really do Twitter. I think when I do Instagram, I automatically post to Twitter, so go for it. Rob Cannon or Blown Minded or something.
Okay.
I can provide you guys links if you do show notes. But
And
so that's where
your
you can find
website
us.
is Blown Minded.
It's
RC?
I like to that is technically my domain, but I changed it to arcanon.design because I don't have to spell that for people.
Oh, okay.
Blown Minded, how do you spell it? I used to get that all the time over the phone. So arcanon.design, you can find my portfolio. So
Okay.
if you want to check out my artwork, that's how you do it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It's been a good old time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it has.
All right,
Bye.
have a good one.
Bye.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Keegan.
What a great guest we just had.
He was interesting to say the least. I learned a lot.
Mr. Rob Cannon, thank you for coming on the show.
And thank you for giving us for not being able to pronounce your colleague's name.
I think we did okay.
I did horrible.
Well, I'm going to call him KP and Riva
Mhm.
and Kevin Rodatelli.
And Vivian is, I believe, her last ones.
It was Vivi Eckert, Kostas
Eckert.
Pantulas.
Pentulas.
The weirdest way I could say that is pain tau lace. Pain tau lace.
Pain towel lace.
But I don't think it's that. I think it's probably one of the other ways.
We'll find out.
Anyway, very, very talented artist either way. So no matter how you say your name,
Mhm.
good work.
Good job, us.
Yeah. So we're going to definitely review this comic next week
Yes.
because it deserves it. So what is next?
So next, I have actually been editing my comic and not completely ready to send to you to get your final review.
This is
slash
the
grade.
deal maker?
Yes, this is the deal maker.
Okay.
For those that don't remember, this was originally supposed to be about a police officer who's bored, and it's kind of warped into a storyline where it's more about the villain than it is about the main character.
Okay. Well, and how did that happen?
Just simply because I had a general idea of where I was going, but I didn't have a complete idea.
Yeah.
And when I was writing it, I realized more and more the character that was the most interesting, the character that I actually cared about, was the deal maker, who is the villain more so than the main character.
The villain to the cop, right?
Yeah, the villain to the cop.
Yeah. We don't know if he's a real villain.
Yeah.
Let's
He's a
leave it
villain
open.
in my head, but
Yeah, he is a
Like-
villain. Well, to the cop, he's definitely a villain.
well, so like in modern day wrestling, the villains, the heels, more often than not are actually cheered more than like the good guys because they're actually the only interesting characters.
Right.
So he's the villain in that. I think he's the only interesting character.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Or the
who
most
wants
interesting
to,
character.
who wants to read about a mopey cop?
Yeah, that's literally what his character is. He's like mopey cop. Good job.
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Mhm.
But it is an interesting premise, right? So, and from that premise, you found a more interesting, like storyline or
Yep.
through line, is what we'll call it.
hmm
That's great. So the deal maker, where's it at? Because the last few weeks it has been nowhere because you've
Mhm.
had life stuff. I know.
Yes. So, it is being currently written on a Word document, and in the Word document itself, have updated / edited everything, all except for pages 7 and 8 on the Word document, not in the comic, but up to page 7, 8 in the Word document. So it's
Very-
almost done.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's page 18 and 19 in the comic, right?
Yep.
Or the last
Page
few
8
pages, right?
Last few pages. I think it's the last
Okay.
4 to 5 pages.
Okay. Great. All right. And how long did it take you?
It took me to re-edit everything, all given about 2.5 hours. I ended up eliminating one of the characters because I realized that he could have been filled in by a different character.
Okay.
So I at one point had the good guy version of the deal maker just show up be randomly at the bar,
Yeah.
and I realized that role could be filled by the bartender himself. So the bartender, who is completely a background character, I actually have given him a more prominent role.
Cool. That sounds
So-
good.
I ended up having to rewrite part of it, which is what took the longest because I had given a fair amount of pages and description and everything to this one old guy character who I called Whitebeard. And
Okay.
literally I took him out. He's no longer in it. He could come in later, but I doubt he will.
Right. Okay. So instead, that role is being served by the bartender.
Yep.
And it's less people to draw and less work for the artist and clearer, more concise writing. So sounds
Yeah.
good to me. Great. So today we're going to talk about dialogue in comics, and it sounds like you are at the point in your rewrite where that conversation might come in handy.
Very much so.
Okay, so we've been doing comedy and improvisational comedy for a while, for over 10 years, right?
Between the two of us, yeah, over 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's been about 10 years. No, maybe not quite
No,
10
I
years,
think
but
it's been about 5 years for the two of us, like each.
7 years. We'll just split the difference. We'll
Okay.
call it.
I don't think it's that long, but okay. 7 years.
I mean, what's 7 years? 2013? Maybe like, yeah, I mean, it was close to then. You were definitely doing suburbs.
I was doing
Improv.
suburbs, but I don't count that as improv.
I counted, I mean, you were doing improv.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's 7 years. So I was right. And that's what's most important.
hmm Yeah, sure, whatever. 6
Okay.
years.
6 years? Okay.
6 years.
All right, fine. I'll give you 6.
So yeah, we've been doing improv 12 years between the two of us, 6 years each.
Okay. Are you sure it's not 13 years?
No, it's not 6.5 years. I'm not greedy. 6 years.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Well, when did you start? What month? Because maybe it's been through.
It was like July, if I remember. July 2014.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So
Mhm.
in improv, they say always be listening. AB. Nope. That's not a. There's no
So-
abbreviation for that.
Tina Fey has a list of 5 rules, and her number one rule is and always will be yes and.
Mhm.
That whatever I say, you agree with that, and then you add on to it. Then her next rule, which I actually think should be her number one rule, because I think it's more important than that, is to always be listening.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if I yes and you if I only hear half of what you say, because that means I wasn't yes anding you entirely. I wasn't listening. That's the biggest part.
Right. You can't guess something you don't hear. Right.
Yeah.
You can say that's a bicycle, and I can say, yes, it has two wheels, but it's not, you weren't really paying attention. So
Yeah, it doesn't really add anything. Bicycles, by definition, has two wheels. So
right. But
if
whereas if I said yes and it looks like a piece of trash
that
that nobody should ride, yeah, that
paints an illustration, and people understand what we were talking about. It's more detailed than it's a two-wheeled bicycle that's redundant and pointless.
okay. So beyond descriptive, a character being descriptive of an item in a room, which is boring. What happens in an improv scene is two actors will meet on stage. They'll have no idea what they're doing, and they will start having a conversation. And what's most important in that conversation is that both actors are listening to each other, because it's through that listening that they're able to identify who they are, where they are, what they're doing, and what the scene's about. What do I mean by who they are, Eric?
Well, so when we come into a scene by saying who we are, we don't know what our relationship is to each other. If we come into an idea and our suggestion was pineapple, we could be best friends on a vacation. We could be brothers.
Okay. Instead of, we'll just say that, okay, so we've identified that we're brothers on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in a comic book, that doesn't really apply because you're going to know who your characters are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the next place? Where are they?
Yeah, where are they?
So again, in a comic book, that's kind of covered because you know where they are in the scene as the writer. Yeah, you've covered that already.
Mm-hmm.
They're on vacation in Hawaii on a beach.
Yes.
For our purposes. What are they doing?
That is also could be somewhat illustrated by the pictures. So if they're drinking pina coladas while hanging on the beach, you could see what they're doing, but that can only get you half of the picture because you don't know what the conversation is between the two of them. You don't know why they're there.
Yeah.
Like, are they?
But for the sake of, but I will say this about comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Starting from a place of improv and like going through these steps can give you more interesting characters, because instead of two hitmen sitting in a van somewhere watching the person they're about to go kill and then saying, let's go get that guy, maybe one of them is like flipping cards, and like that's something an actor might do on screen just at the beginning of a scene, is just flip through some cards, and maybe the other one's eating a burger. And like, if you give them something to do that has nothing to do with their purpose in the scene, which is to go kill that guy that just walked in a bar, you're creating an atmosphere for those characters to react to each other. So like, maybe the guy eating the burger is like, I hate when you do magic tricks, please stop, and it's just based on that other character holding a deck of cards. So as you can see, like the more you add in, or scene paint is what they call it in improvisational comedy, the more interesting your characters get, even if they're kind of one-dimensional. Each
character should have their own SH, no matter what. So let's say you were SHIT. I just don't want to say the swear word. Had their own thing about.
What are you doing with your hands?
I was shuffling cards to illustrate the point.
You were doing sound effects.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Each character should have their own thing.
Yeah, their own thing. So let's say, even like if you were interacting, let's say you're interacting with the victim at that point. My thing could be like, I've got a stomach ache because of the burger that I just ate, and I was forced to run after this guy, so I'm not in a good mood. So maybe I'm holding my stomach and not really paying attention and letting you do your thing while you're interacting with the soon-to-be victim.
Right. So, and some of this comes from the writing itself, right? If you're writing the first time and you can do kind of this process line by line of scene building, that's kind of what writing is in the first place. But if you're going back and you're re-editing and you're trying to figure out what's going on, why it's not really popping or interesting, this is stuff that you can throw in. These are just ideas for you to throw into your script to make it more interesting, to build out more three-dimensional characters that aren't just two hitmen. You don't want just two hitmen sitting in a truck. You want your readers to know those hitmen's name and like what they're like and who they are and like why they're funny or why they're doofuses or why they're skilled, trained assassins or what, you know. Cool. So after you have the who, what they're doing, where they are, it's time to get into that why of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
What is that, Eric?
The why is just simply like, what are we supposed to care about this for? Is it supposed to be like a tense thing, like with the two hitman? Like, are they like tense, like they're ready to kill the guy at any moment? They're about to go off because they're unhinged. Maybe it's a comedy thing. Maybe they're like the Three Stooges of hitmen and are tripping over their own legs or something like that too. Or maybe it's like a somber reflection about like their life, like what led them to this point that they're being forced to earn a living by killing people. So it's like trying to find what's happening between the lines, but you need the lines to get there.
And there's a few tips on that, like talking about external people is usually not interesting for somebody watching or reading. So if they're sitting there talking about somebody who's not there, people, you know, they're not really talking about anything. There's no emotional content. So really what scenes are built on, good scenes, is emotional reactions between the two characters. So let's do just a very brief so there's one trick to this and we're going to demonstrate. So let's start a scene, Eric.
Wow, that was amazing pineapple juice.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because I spent almost no time on that pineapple juice and I accidentally spilled a lot of salt into it.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because I am on a high calorie or a low calorie diet, and salt is very deadly to me. So I could be dead any second now.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because I was trying to kill you with this mop, and I somehow managed to do it with the drink that you're holding. So I'm feeling very happy.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because I feel offended that you're happy that I'm dying. I thought we were friends, and that is upsetting me.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because I've never had a friend before, and now I feel really bad.
I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because even though you feel really bad, you could be doing more than, talking about how you're going to kill me.
Okay, so as you can see from this demonstration, just adding, I can't believe you just said that to me. That's important to me because to what a character is saying, while it doesn't sound great, it does force you as a writer to add something emotionally involved to what the character's saying. Like the character has to find what they're about to say important, So if we just cut the, I can't believe you just said that to me, that's important to me because from all of those lines, we have a pretty funny scene where the characters are reacting emotionally to what is being said. And each line has weight to that scene about a guy getting poisoned by salt instead of killed with a mop.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing dialogue in your comic and your characters are talking to each other, you should go line by line and see if they're actually reacting to what the other character is saying and taking what the other character is saying as important.
Each line should be considered to be the most important line that person's ever said, ever, no matter what. So even if the line simply is, I farted, that's the most important line ever for whatever reason.
Right. Because exactly. So there are a couple other comic related tips we have. When you're writing out comics, it's common to just write like what sounds really cool and like, you're typing and it sounds like, this is great. But then you read it and it sounds like, if you don't read it out loud, what I'm trying to say is if you don't read it out loud, it's going to sound bad. There's one other thing that really is important, and that is to remember that you're making a comic book. So the reader can see everything that is happening, unlike a novel, where you have to write everything in that's happening and all the details and stuff. In a comic book, the scene is right there for people to see. And what do I mean by that, Eric?
What we mean by that is we don't need to describe the angle, what's happening. Like, so if the person's punching somebody with their right fist, you don't need to write down, I'm punching you with my right fist. You will physically see the person punching them with their right fist.
Right. Or if a car explodes, you don't need characters to say, look,
the car's exploding.
At that car.
It's exploding.
Or I read a comic, and like for 3 pages, there was no dialogue, or there shouldn't have been any dialogue. It was just a character kind of sneaking into a building. But like every panel had this character going, I'm jumping. I need to be fast here. Oh, I'm feeling out of breath. Oh, this ladder is so tall. And it just completely took me out of the comic, because I couldn't imagine somebody doing all those things and describing them to themselves. It was very neurotic. So those are some dialogue tips. Eric, do you mind if we look at your script and see
No, go
what
for
you
it.
have here? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we have page 7 up. Hank and Jim, where are they in the first panel?
So in page 7, Hank this is like a memory, like he's describing what happened to him.
Okay.
He was in a convenience store when 2 people like tried to rob the place.
Okay.
And by the time by the time he reacted, they had already been incapacitated, and somebody wrote, like, the superheroes wrote a message for him on the ceiling.
Okay. And so the message on the ceiling is, thank you, sir, for all that you have done, but we will take it from here. So that message is on the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then in panel 2, Hank and Jim are in the cop car and they're having a conversation. So Hank says, word spreads quickly. I haven't seen a hint of crime, white collar or otherwise. Heck, look at all the streets. They are cleaned nightly at 3 a.m., so it appears as if they have never been driven on. I have not seen a hint of crime, white or other, since the super squad marched in. Face it, kid, we are the dinosaurs looking at the meteor coming down. We are extinct. Just don't know it yet.
So,
and then Jim responds, we must serve some purpose, right, Hank? And then Hank goes to sleep. And then Jim says, I think we are important. So that's a short scene.
And so I honestly, so just reading that out loud, the first one with Hank,
Yeah.
it needs to be cleaned up. There's repetitive parts. I repeat something.
Mm-hmm.
I miss some grammar again, because I tend to do stream of conscience. So I will write something and just, if it sounds like correct, flowing out, and then I'll go back and re-edit it. So
that's fine. There's plenty of people who do that. And there's lots of drafts. People have like 13 drafts, 15 drafts of scripts before they're finished,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fine to do that. So I'm not trying to out your bad writing or anything. But just talking about that, I think it's too long for one panel or for one speech bubble. Possibly, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a long speech. So I might separate it as like word spreads quickly and I haven't seen a hint of crime, white collar or otherwise. And then bam, he's like on to his next thought. Heck, look at the streets. And then I might even separate that. Like, and then add a panel here.
Mhm.
Like panel 3. And Hank looks mad. Like you can when you're writing dialogue and the character is kind of like explaining his point of view, you can have multiple panels and separate their speech into emotional beats. So in this speech, Hank starts and he feels like he's reminiscing, right?
Mhm.
So that's not, he kind of starts from neutral, but then he gets a little bit more mad as he's talking, right? So
Yep.
word spreads quickly. I haven't seen a hint of crime, white collar, otherwise. Heck, look at the streets. And then he's like a little more mad. They're clean nightly at 3 a.m. So it looks like they've never been driven on. You know?
Yeah.
And then panel.
And then I would
The next
eliminate
panel.
that line. I would eliminate that line. There.
Well, the next panel could be him like he's even more disgusted. Face it, kid. Right?
Yep.
Face it, kid. We're dinosaurs. We are the dinosaurs looking at the meteor coming down. We are extinct. We just don't know it yet, right?
Mhm.
And there's so before I change that, I just want to point this out. This is what I call comic speak, because a lot of comics do this, and this is like one of those sentences, like if you read it out loud, it doesn't quite sound right, but it sounds cool. We are extinct, just don't know it yet.
We're extinct. We just don't know it yet. Is what it should be.
Right, but it sounds cool. Just don't know it yet, right? But like I don't know anyone that skips that second pronoun or that second identifier in that
The
sentence.
second pronoun that I skipped was not because I meant to look cool. It was happening because I have poor grammatical skills on my first draft.
No, I'm sorry, Eric. I'm not saying that you were trying to be cool. I'm just pointing out that I see that all the time in comics, and it drives me crazy because I just don't think that it is something people would actually say.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds really cool. We are extinct, just don't know it yet, you know?
Yeah. No,
it sounds like
be
something like some like cool douchebag would say. But like
a guy smoking a cigarette at a poetry slam would say that. Right.
But it you know, we would, and anyone with half a brain would say we are extinct. We just don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I'm just pointing that out because
I will, that will not, in my version, when I do it, it will be fixed so that they.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now just breaking this, so you've had basically, we didn't have a dialogue here. We had basically a speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even speeches you can break down by emotional beats.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've done film or you've taken a screenwriting class, or an acting class, you know about emotional beats, breakdowns when you're writing, and that's what you need to do in a comic book. But you also need to think about where those emotional beats should go in each panel. So maybe you break down those emotional beats by panel, instead of just by line by line.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've separated this into panels. Hank starts from neutral, word spreads quickly. I haven't seen a hint of crime, white collar, otherwise. Heck, look at the streets. Then boom, panel 3, Hank looks mad. They're cleaning up nightly at 3 a.m. So it looks like they've never even been driven on. And then Hank is disgusted, like, face it, kids, or even a little defeated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are 3 different emotional places that he can be in that same speech, and it shows his point of view a little better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I mean, so if you're watching a live action film, even you'll see like just the actor when they're giving their monologue or just talking, they'll go through these range of emotions when speaking. You know, assuming they're not Keanu Reeves, but they'll speak like that, and you could see like them change and their expressions change. You just because you're creating something from your imagination, you have to put that in there.
Right. Or you have to go back and edit it to be in there, right? You have to like really think about it. And actors spend days on on a scene like this, just thinking about the emotional beats and how to play them. And directors, actually, when you watch the film, next time you watch a film, you should like slow it down and see like how many camera edits there are on a speech like this, because chances are the director has also broken a speech like this down into different camera positions, like close up or wide shot or reaction shot from another character. Like we could put Jim in here, like looking like, what are you, like, what's he on about? You know? Or kind of just reacting like surprised to hear Hank talk this much or something, you know? And that might be a good beat to add to this to make it have more depth and stuff. So anyway, that's dialogue in comics. It's stuff to think about. What do you think, Eric?
I think like it's a good thing, and like again, not finished editing, so I'll have to go through again a third time at least just for it to make grammatical sense, because right now, again, it's still stream of conscious. I'm just trying, like how I'm editing right now, so I'm trying to add a lot of details because a lot of the imagery was not present there. So instead of saying like what I would want the panel to look like, I was just simply saying like Hank and Jim in car.
Yeah. So your first draft was an outline, basically. Your second draft is filling in the details for the artist on what's in each panel. Your third draft will probably be focusing on dialogue and like making sure that these have emotional beats as well.
And then my fourth draft will probably be just, grammar and all that basics.
Yeah. And you should have somebody at some point, you should have somebody look at it and give you some notes on it too. Like a very trusted friend or family
Are you
member.
volunteering?
No.
I'm pretty sure you're volunteering.
Okay.
I'm hearing you volunteering.
I am. Yes, and.
Hey, do you ever hear the joke? Who's the one type of person you should always ask out?
Who's that?
An improviser, because they're required to yes and.
Yeah, that's very funny.
Finger guns.
So Eric, have any comics to review this week?
I do have a comic review this week. I reread a comic, actually, a fantastic comic. At least comics 3 through 6 were fantastic.
Okay, hold on. What comics are these?
They were the comics from our last week's guest, the Vampire Shark comic.
By Mark Van Anen.
By Mark Van Anen. Anen.
It doesn't have a T.
On it.
Nen. Von Anen.
Von Anent.
No, stop it.
Von Anen.
All right, let's try the next one. Jamal Patterson. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so the comic is called Nosferatu. Nope. Ahab Van Helsing versus Nosferatu Carcharodon. And Carcharodon or Carcharodon. Okay. Oh, God. Let's start this whole thing over. I'm sorry. But this has been really dumb.
Okay, we'll restart the entire thing over.
Hey, Eric, have you read any comics this week?
I reread a comic this week by the great artist Von Anen.
Von Anen.
Von Anen.
We just went over this. I literally just cut 20 minutes from this podcast.
Of me just sitting there mispronouncing the author's last name. Literally just 20 minutes of me going Von Anen.
His name is Mark Van Anen.
Mark Von Anen.
Good.
To-
Okay, and what's his comic?
And what his comic was, something.
A. Oh my God.
Well,
We're starting over. Hey, Eric,
hey Keegan,
did you read any comics this week?
I reread a comic this week actually.
And what was that?
It was the comic by Mark Von Anen.
On it?
Yeah, on it.
No, it was Von Anen.
Von Anen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And was that Ahab Van Helsing versus Nosferatu Carcharodon?
It was, Keegan. It was.
Did you read the whole series, Eric?
I read all 6 issues plus the bonus, Simpsons-esque episode.
Which was just the
The
first.
Flanders. It was
yeah.
He wrote everything as Flanders
Yeah.
speech. So the Ned Flanders version is literally the exact plot, artwork. Only thing that's different is the dialogue. He went into the Ned Flanders translator and literally just translated everything. So it's every single character sounds like they're speaking like Ned Flanders would.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny read.
Yeah, instead of like Oakley, instead of saying like okay, they say Oakley Dokley, and instead of saying thank you, they would say like thankly dankly.
Yeah. It was worth. Yeah, I mean, it was funny for a few minutes. So Eric, let's do a quick review. What did you think of the plot of? And we're gonna do this as a whole series, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you think of the plot?
I thought the plot was straightforward and simple, and not anything like with crazy twists and turns. It was just kind of a fun plot of just them going back and forth, talking, like, or just like
I thought it had plenty of good twists.
it had good twists, but it wasn't like I didn't think this was an M. Night Shyamalan like what a twist anytime. It was just
No, I mean, come on. There was a main character that just disappears in comic 3. He just disappeared. How big a twist is that? You think he's gonna be like the main character?
yeah,
of
he
the
just
whole
kind of
comic.
walks off.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that is true. He's just somebody's like, yeah, I don't need to do this, and he just walks off. I'm done. But
Yeah, exactly.
I don't consider that to be a major twist because if he had died, that would have been. I think if he had died, that would have been much more of a big twist, and him just being like, "I'm done."
What about the big twist of? I mean, that character is also afraid of the water,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have this vampire shark who bites every sea creature there is
And they all
and turns into a vampire. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that was a pretty big twist.
That was a pretty big twist.
I think it
So-
was surprising. It continues
It was
to surprise
surprising,
me.
but I just thought it was like, it followed a thread that I understood where it was going the entire time. It would never like I meant that like there's no twists and that like whenever there's a twist, it's a bad twist. You don't see it. You don't see it coming in a bad way.
Okay, so there was no Deus Ex Machina.
Yes. At no point did Jesus come down and be like, "I have come to save you all, children."
Right, and it wasn't all a dream.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. But I have to say, it was pretty surprising. It kept me very entertained. It was
a
surprising.
It was a very entertaining book to read,
Yeah.
or 6 comics to read.
So it starts with kind of this vampire gets eaten by the shark and then starts terrorizing some teenagers. And the shark can fly. That was
It's got all the powers of a vampire. It can fly. It's weak to sun. Stuff like that.
okay. And then the sheriff in town is named Van Helsing,
Mhm.
right? And he's picking up this weird character who's like a vampire hunter,
Mhm.
right? I don't know his name, but it doesn't matter because he leaves.
He's the character that leaves. He's the character that you think's gonna be the main character because he's got like all this stuff to hunt vampires, like holy water.
And he's like
snakes.
telling the sheriff that no, this is actually a vampire, and I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And they believe him after they see the flying shark, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so they, in the first 2 books, they're kind of just fighting this shark. And then in book 3, they're on the boat. They go out on this boat to
Yeah.
try and catch the shark, like in
they
Jaws.
Realize that the shark is in this water. So they realize they need to get to the surface, so they'll be exposed to the sunlight. So they're going on a boat and they're taking all the krill and they're gonna, it's still a shark, so it still will hunt the krill because it wants to eat it.
But that's when they realize that sharks eat things other than people, and this shark has started biting sea life, including a giant octopus, which was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, there was some amazing art.
So book 4 is when all the sea creatures start attacking the town, right? And
including a turtle.
Yeah, and that's when the sheriff is like, "I'm going to take care of this myself." Yeah, the turtle was a good. And then 5 and 6 are him and his deputy kind of just chasing the shark, right?
Yep.
And I forget how it ends, but he gets
He's
it, right?
able to stake the shark, but then after he stakes the shark, he looks inside, and the vampire's crawling itself out free. So the vampire's still there.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's right. Wild. See, that was a twist.
That was a twist, yeah. That was a twist. I admit I didn't expect that.
So what about the art?
So the art, it changes between issues 1, 2, and the rest. So it was illustrated by a different artist in the beginning than was the rest, and I believe the
first artist was Jamal Patterson.
He did issues 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and then issues 3 through 6 were illustrated by
Gary McCluskey.
I believe Gary McCluskey did a much better job with the artwork, in my personal opinion.
I think so. I will say, it seems to me, I mean, the artwork is pretty good in the first comic.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. What the real problem with it is that somebody in Photoshop has like squished his panels and like he didn't scale it properly, so they scanned it in, but then when they were putting it in panels, they like, instead of like scaling the whole thing equally, they've squished it so that the characters look like they're like squished. And so when you say that the art is bad, I really think that most of your critique comes from that problem of the squishing.
Yeah.
Let me show you what I mean.
Okay.
In this panel, this looks terrible, right? Because he's like condensed sideways, but this doesn't look that bad.
No, that artwork looks actually pretty good.
And it's actually pretty detailed.
Yeah.
Of the vampire here sitting on this person. And then again, this is like squished, but this is not squished. And this is definitely squished, but this is pretty squished too. But you can see that how detailed this artist is. I'm just defending this a little bit because I don't think it was the artist's fault. It was whoever designed the layout of this book really did it a disservice. And I mean, that's something that possibly could be changed or fixed in the future. But another thing about this art that I'll say before we get into Gary's art, I think this art is better served in color, and there's a lot of like missing details from the background and missing shading from the background, and it's pretty clear that this artist thought it should be colored probably. And that's what I'm thinking in these frames. I don't know. What do you think of that?
I agree with that critique that looking at it now, it's not that there wasn't detail and wasn't done. It's just that it wasn't done to proportion. Like the person looks like he went from being a normal human being to being like squished between two walls.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't think it's that. Yeah, I mean, whoever put this panel in like squished it sideways without paying attention to the proportions of how it was drawn. You know, they should have cropped it instead of resized it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That makes sense. And then also if you go back to like the top, though, if you go up one to the part where, or even just with the shark, that again, it looks like he meant to have color to like differentiate between the backgrounds and the person, because you can see
Yeah.
the person there, but you barely can see the person there.
I mean, you can't tell that this is water. I assume it's water, and these are like different shades of water.
And
You
if there's
know?
actually a person there besides the shark,
Yeah.
like you can't tell that unless you really stare at it.
Right. Right. So that's where I think this comic kind of fails.
Mhm.
Is those two things. The art is actually squished poorly, and it clearly was calling for color, and it didn't get any. Whereas the difference between that book and Gary's book is that Gary has filled in the backgrounds with gradients
Mhm.
and some shading, so the characters don't look as flat in their environment. There's also, I mean, the inking is shading the characters too in this. There's no shading in the first two books.
Yep.
So besides that, what do you think of the art? So what did you think of the art for the books 3 through 6?
Again, I think I actually personally like it just plain better though too, because it looks like this artwork, the artist knew that was gonna be in black and white, and he drew in such a way that reflected that characters were like given distinctness from the background that I could tell this was meant to be in black and white.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the artist and the creative team kind of know about this already, so I don't feel bad pointing this stuff out. What about the actual way this is drawn? So we're starting with Gary McCluskey's version of the books here.
I actually like the character designs better. I just like the artwork better. It reminded me a lot of Archer, if you remember
Okay.
that cartoon.
Yeah.
And I really like the artwork in Archer. So
So it's kind of cartoony, but it's still sort of realistic looking.
yeah,
And there's some shots in here that really look like Jaws.
Mhm.
Like this boat really kind of looks like the boat from Jaws.
I also think the octopus was done, or the giant octopus, giant squid, was done super super well. Like
It's
even at one
super
tentacle,
detailed. Yeah.
it's super detailed. Like much more. Like even just looking at it a second time, it's just much more detailed.
Yeah. Whoever did the inking on this, and I think it was Gary again, really put in a lot of time. I know that there's actually some computer graphics screen tone in the background, which didn't bother me.
I don't know.
That's sort of a manga technique.
Mhm.
Did that bother you?
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah, but so this version, you don't miss the color, and the characters are more defined, and I think the artist definitely, he probably benefited from seeing the first two books,
Yeah.
and kind of like knew where he had to go with it to get this to be good in black and white and everything. And from what Mark said, like Jamal just didn't have time to work on these books anymore. So, so it was a good change, actually.
Yeah, I think it was a change for the better, even though
Yeah.
I don't know if Mark would agree, but I believe it was.
So we're gonna move on to the color. What do you think? How did the black and white serve this book?
I felt it worked really well for books 3 through 6 because it reminded me a lot of Nosferatu, the film, and in a good way. Whereas the first two, I don't think they took advantage of it. It was just kind of like it looked like the guy was going for What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Whereas this one gave me a very Nosferatu look to it.
So this almost looks like Walking Dead style of comics. Whereas I think what you're trying to say is the first one looked a little bit more like it was aware it was a comedy.
Yeah.
And this one is more playing it straight. It's a comedy, but the characters don't know that,
Yeah.
And for me, the black and white was like, it was a little annoying. I kind of wish that this was in color, actually.
I actually don't mind. Like, I don't mind this one being in black and white because I actually think it works well for it. I don't think it takes anything away. Whereas I think the other ones.
I think for me, it's just the gore. I think the gory factor would have been funnier if it was black and white.
I almost borderline wish he did a Samurai Fiction, which is a black and white film, but whenever there was blood, they would show it in red.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Mhm.
Cool. So let's move on to the lettering. I think it's just standard digital editing. Looks like
Yeah.
a Blambot font, pretty standard comic font.
Mhm.
And the sound effects are, I mean, what you would see. They're pretty much Marvel standard. Would
Yep.
you agree? Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so it's down to that French term.
Je ne sais quoi?
What is the je ne sais quoi?
That's a French term.
What is it?
Well, it's a French term.
It's that certain I don't know what.
Yeah, it's a French term.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So what do you think it was?
I thought it was the fact that again that it was a comedy that knew it was a comedy and played itself like a B horror film correctly.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
For me, it was the actual playfulness with the vampire sea life.
Mhm.
So you think it's going to be just this shark book,
Mhm.
like, which is entertaining, but like the fact that he expanded it and it was like sea turtles and fish and
He actually turned it into a universe, which was I thought very impressive for
yeah,
what was happening.
stingrays and dolphins and swordfish vampires, and it made it much more fun
Mhm.
for me. And that was when all these books like hit the gas pedal. It was like really entertaining. You wanted to turn the page. Yeah, and the art change helped, to be honest, but I really think that what the problem is in those first two books, the real problem is that those pages were designed poorly. I don't know who
They
did
kind
it,
of
but
it was hard to see stuff. It was something that I spent too much time looking at, not because I was enjoying the artwork, but because I was
Right.
trying to figure out what was going on.
So they're not super detailed and they're squished. And so it's like failing on 2 points where you really shouldn't fail. Like, but those comics, I mean, the artist was drawing for color, I think. So, I don't know. I think if you had color and it was shading everything in and the background was filled in, you would like those two books a lot better. Anyway, yeah. So for me, it was the sea urchins. I like the comedy too. It definitely has
The
great
turtle
puns.
joke was probably one of the favorite jokes I've read in a comic in a very long time.
I know. I don't want to ruin it. So
I don't want to ruin that, but honestly, the turtle joke alone makes it worth it to get all 6 comics.
yeah, it is. So you should definitely follow the link in the show notes to get these comics.
It's definitely worth picking up. Definitely worth reading.
I think you just email Mark. I think that's what he said to do.
Yeah, he's like, that's just how he's dealing with it. Just email him and he'll get you copies. He's also coming up with a new comic, which I'm really excited for because I like his writing style. I think he's a really funny guy, so I think it works out great.
Yeah. So on a scale between a underwater scuba diving trip, where you lose your oxygen and then get eaten by vampire turtles, and a underwater scuba diving trip where you don't
Whoa, what a high bar.
because underwater scuba diving trips I assume would be pretty, wouldn't you say, low bar?
Yeah, low bar.
All right, well, underwater scuba diving trip where you find mermaids that have the fountain of youth and they give you a drink. What would you give this comic? The series, the whole series.
I would say that the first like part of your trip is like you're smelling farts the entire time, but eventually the fart smell disappears, and you don't find mermaids that give you the fountain of youth, but you do find some really cool coral fish, and you're able to just follow this fish for a while, and it really gives you a good adventure. So as you get past the fart smell, it's great.
Okay. To me, I would say you have a snorkel.
Mhm.
Okay. And at first you don't know how to use the snorkel,
Are you
but it's
farting
still,
the snorkel?
but it's still fun. You're holding your breath.
Mhm.
And then eventually you figure out how to use the snorkel and you find mermaids and you drink from the fountain. So, while I don't think it is fart smell bad, I thought it was not, maybe getting a couple gulps of seawater, but you're still having fun. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Mark, again, thanks for coming on the show. If you do happen to hear this one day,
Thank you.
and we really liked your comics and hope that everyone reads them.
Really good.
And thanks to our guest, Rob Cannon,
Very talented.
and for helping us no, not helping us, but for showing us his comic Freak Snow.
Very informative.
And sad R.I.P. to Chadwick Boseman.
Too soon.
Yeah. And we would like to say, if you want to watch this podcast for some reason, I mean, we did share the screen quite often. You can go on our Patreon, patreon.com/
Dumb comic creators.
Good job, Eric. And
You're welcome.
If you don't mind, rate us 5 stars on the podcast service that you're listening to us on.
Support us on the Patreon itself.
Yeah, you can do that too. Or you can watch us for free.
Share it with your friends. The more the merrier.
That's right. And if you have any comics you want us to review or read, and if you want to come on our show, just reach out to us, dumbcomiccreators.com@gmail.com. Did I get through everything? Is that all our promotions that we're doing?
I think so.
Okay. Why are you whispering?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's very entertaining for you to just be the hype man right now.
So good. So good. So good.
Is that your Sweet Caroline?
No, I was thinking of the I was actually thinking of Cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Who?
There's a song called Cannibal Shia LaBeouf. Listen to it after this. But at one point they just start whispering in the microphone, going like, "Quiet, quiet."
Oh, okay.
Also,
cool.
I recommend Cannibal Shia LaBeouf. It's a good song.
Who's it by?
I don't know, but Shia LaBeouf actually appears in the music videos himself.
Does he? Really? What's he doing?
You know the gif of Shia LaBeouf applauding, like in a suit?
Yeah.
That's where that's from.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's by Rob Cantor.
Rob Cantor.
That's the artist.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting ending to an interesting episode.
I love how we talked about a song on a comic book podcast. But we
did.
care.
Yeah,
we
we
care.
did.
Hey, we're listening to each other. And yes, ending.
And yes, ending. And we hope that you understand how to do dialogue now a little better.
Oh boy.
Or at least got some ideas, because we're not great at this either.
Mhm.
All right. So I think that's the end.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.